Between tears and mercy lies the most profound struggle of the human heart, the battle between emotion and intention. You see, every one of us reaches a point where our emotions begin to whisper, "You're exhausted, you can't keep going, you've done enough." And in those moments, it's easy to surrender, to convince ourselves that we're simply tired. But the truth is often deeper and less comfortable. We're not tired. We've lost discipline. Our hearts have grown heavy not because the path is too hard, but because our focus has drifted. It's not fatigue that breaks us, it's the lack of alignment between what we feel and what we know we should be doing. Discipline begins where emotion ends. It's easy to act when you feel inspired, when the world feels light, and when your motivation is high. But real discipline appears in the moments when everything in you wants to stop. It's the quiet decision to rise for prayer when your body begs for more sleep. It's choosing patience when anger feels justified. It's smiling through tears because you know Allah sees your effort, not just your outcome. This balance between tears and control, between surrender and strength, is where the beauty of the soul is tested. Many people misunderstand discipline as something harsh, something that suppresses emotion, but it isn't. True discipline is mercy in disguise. It doesn't silence your pain. It gives your pain direction. When you cry, when your heart breaks, when you feel like giving up, discipline gently reminds you, there's purpose behind this. Don't walk away yet. And when you listen to that whisper, something miraculous happens. Your pain begins to serve you instead of enslaving you. You begin to realize that your emotions are not your enemies, they're your teachers. But they must never become your masters. Sometimes, our tears are not signs of weakness, but signs of deep sincerity. They show that we care, that we're striving, that our hearts are alive. Yet if those tears are not guided by intention, they can drown us in self-pity. Tears without direction lead to despair. Tears guided by discipline lead to transformation. You can either cry and quit, or cry and continue. The choice defines your destiny. Because the truth is, Allah does not ask for perfection. He asks for perseverance. He wants to see you rise from the same ground where you fell, again and again, until your heart learns that strength is not about never breaking, it's about never staying broken. And maybe that's why life brings us to moments where everything feels too heavy to carry. Not to punish us, but to teach us that emotion alone isn't enough to sustain faith. We need intention, we need structure, we need discipline. Because discipline is the bridge between who we are and who we're meant to become. It's what turns fleeting moments of motivation into a lifelong habit of resilience. It's what turns tears into prayers, pain into purpose, and exhaustion into growth. So the next time you find yourself saying, "I'm tired," pause for a moment and ask, "Am I really tired, or have I just lost focus?" Because the moment you choose to see your struggle not as a burden, but as a blessing in disguise, you'll realize that you were never truly tired, only distracted. The soul doesn't get weary from trying. It gets weary from drifting. Bring your heart back to intention, anchor it in discipline, and you'll find that between your tears and Allah's mercy lies not weakness, but the strength to rise again. Discipline is one of the greatest forms of mercy that Allah grants to a believer, though we rarely recognize it as such. When we think of mercy, we often imagine ease, comfort, and relief from pain. But sometimes mercy comes wrapped in struggle. Sometimes Allah's compassion is hidden within the very moments that make us uncomfortable, because He knows that growth only comes when the soul is tested. The ability to control your desires, to restrain yourself when every impulse pushes you toward ease, that's not harshness. That's divine compassion. It's Allah protecting you from the destruction of indulgence and laziness. It's His way of teaching you how to rise above what weakens you. Discipline is mercy because it brings you closer to your purpose. Every rule in life, every command in faith, is not meant to limit you, it's meant to liberate you. Think about it. When you fast, you're denying yourself food and drink, but what do you gain? Clarity, purity, a heart that learns gratitude. When you lower your gaze, when you hold your tongue, when you restrain anger, you're not depriving yourself, you're strengthening your heart. You're learning to master your impulses instead of being mastered by them. That is mercy, because left unchecked, our emotions, our desires, our distractions would consume us. Discipline is the rope that keeps you anchored to balance. And Allah, in His infinite wisdom, gives discipline to those He loves most. The ones who face the hardest tests are not the ones abandoned, they are the ones chosen. Every hardship you face, every responsibility that weighs heavy on your shoulders, is a sign that He sees potential in you. He knows your strength before you do, and so He disciplines you through delay, through discomfort, through lessons that break you only to build you stronger. You may look at someone who lives without structure, who seems carefree, and think they have it easier. But ease without discipline is not mercy, it's a slow decay of the soul. Mercy is when Allah loves you enough to challenge you, to pull you away from what's easy toward what's right. It's easy to say, I want success. I want peace. I want to be close to Allah. But these things are not gifts handed freely. They are rewards for those who stay consistent when others quit. Mercy doesn't always soothe. Sometimes it stirs. It wakes you up at dawn for prayer. It fills you with guilt when you slip. It keeps your heart restless until you return to your purpose. That restlessness is mercy. That struggle is mercy. Every act of discipline you commit to, whether it's a daily habit, a prayer, or a moment of patience, is an act of love between you and your Creator. It's your soul responding to His call, saying, I'm still here, still trying. The irony is that most people seek comfort without realizing that true comfort is found in discipline. Because when you live without discipline, you live at the mercy of your moods. You become a prisoner of your impulses, pulled in every direction by fleeting feelings. But when you live with discipline, you gain control not over the world, but over yourself. That control brings peace. That stability brings serenity. That's the quiet mercy of discipline. It doesn't just shape your routine, it shapes your soul. So when life feels restrictive, when you find yourself struggling to remain consistent, remind yourself this is mercy, not punishment. Every act of control, every small victory over your desires, is a sign that Allah is guiding you toward your higher self. The next time you feel the weight of discipline pressing on your shoulders, remember this is not a burden. It's mercy molding you, training you, elevating you. And one day, you'll look back and realize that every moment you thought was harsh was, in truth, an act of divine compassion designed to make you unbreakable. Most people say they're tired, but in reality, they're not tired, they're disconnected from their purpose. When you forget why you started, everything begins to feel heavier. The same work that once felt meaningful becomes a burden, and the same effort that once brought joy begins to drain you. Fatigue without purpose leads to despair, but discipline with purpose leads to transformation. It's not the physical exhaustion that breaks a person, it's the emotional disconnection from meaning. Once your why fades, even small struggles begin to feel unbearable. But when your purpose is alive in your heart, you can endure storms with patience and even find beauty within the pain. Think about it, every great achievement, every act of faith, every transformation began with a clear sense of purpose. The prophets faced unimaginable challenges, yet their strength never ran dry. Why? Because their vision was rooted in divine purpose. Their struggles weren't random, they were guided. When you see your hardship as part of something sacred, your pain no longer feels like punishment, it becomes a path. And when your path has meaning, exhaustion loses its power over you. You stop saying, I can't, and you start asking, how can I keep going? That shift in perspective is where transformation begins. Sometimes we confuse rest with escape. We think taking a break will heal us, but what we really need is to reconnect not to the world, but to the purpose behind what we're doing. When you realign your actions with your intention, suddenly even the smallest act becomes an act of worship. Your work, your struggle, your patience, all of it begins to carry meaning again. and that meaning fuels you in ways sleep never could. Purpose is the oxygen of the soul. Without it, even rest feels restless. But finding purpose requires reflection. It requires pausing long enough to ask yourself, why am I doing this? For whom am I doing this? When the answer is only about yourself, your comfort, your ego, your success, you'll always burn out, because the self is never satisfied. But when your purpose extends beyond you, when you remember that you're striving for something higher, something eternal, then even when you're tired, you don't give up. You rest with gratitude, not guilt. You push forward with patience, not pressure. That's what it means to be driven by something greater than emotion, to be anchored in intention. And yes, the path of purpose is not always easy. It comes with tears, setbacks, and moments of loneliness. But those very moments are what build your character. Every delay teaches patience. Every disappointment deepens faith. Every obstacle forces you to grow in ways comfort never could. You see, pain itself can be a form of divine direction. Sometimes Allah allows the weight to increase so that your reliance on Him strengthens. You think the burden is there to break you, but it's actually there to awaken you, to remind you of the strength that was always within you. Purpose gives meaning to the tears. It transforms your frustration into fuel and your pain into progress. And once you connect your struggle to something meaningful, you'll find that discipline becomes easier, not because the path becomes lighter, but because your heart becomes stronger. Every challenge becomes a chapter in your story, and every fall becomes a lesson in humility. So the next time you feel lost, don't ask for the load to be lifted, ask for your purpose to be renewed. Because once you remember why you're walking this path, the tiredness fades, the confusion clears, and what once felt like pain becomes proof that you're still growing, still striving, still chosen for something greater than yourself. Tears are not a sign of weakness. They are signs that the heart is still alive, that the soul is still fighting. When a person reaches a point where they can no longer hold back their tears, it means they have reached the depth of sincerity that words can no longer express. But between those tears and Allah's mercy lies a choice to give up or to rise. Every tear that falls carries a message from your soul. It says, I still care, and that care is proof that your story isn't over yet. You may feel broken, but your tears are not your end. They are the beginning of something sacred, the moment where pain transforms into purpose. It is in your lowest moments, when you feel most fragile, that the door of mercy opens widest. Allah never wastes a tear shed for Him. Each one becomes a witness for you, a sign that you are still reaching for Him even through your pain. But the key is to let those tears move you forward, not hold you back. Cry, but don't drown. Feel, but don't fall apart. The same tears that blur your vision can cleanse your heart if you let them lead you back to focus. Between Tears and Rahmah, you are being refined, not punished, not forgotten, but prepared. Sometimes we wait for motivation to lift us up again, but the truth is, motivation is fleeting. You cannot wait to feel ready. You must act through the ache. Discipline is what bridges the distance between sorrow and strength. When you take one small step after crying, when you rise again even with trembling hands, that is when true transformation begins. The moment you move despite the heaviness, you're not just surviving, you're growing. Allah's mercy often manifests in those quiet acts of persistence, in those silent battles no one else sees. Every time you keep going despite wanting to stop, you are being molded by mercy itself. Faith was never meant to be lived without struggle. The heart becomes strong through breaking and mending, through falling and rising, through surrender and striving. So when you face moments of deep pain, don't rush to escape them. Sit with your tears, let them speak, and then let them push you toward change. Because mercy is not found in avoiding hardship. It is found in discovering Allah within it. When you realize that every moment of heartbreak was actually leading you back to Him, you begin to see that your tears were never wasted, they were guiding you home. Every drop of pain has purpose. Every hardship you endure is shaping you into someone more patient, more humble, more resilient. And the truth is, people who have cried deeply often love more deeply. They understand compassion because they've lived through difficulty. They appreciate mercy because they've desperately needed it. So if your heart feels heavy today, if your eyes are tired of crying, know that this very exhaustion is proof that Allah is near. The pain you feel is not the end of your story, it's a reminder that something beautiful is still being written. So don't let your tears make you feel defeated. Let them remind you that you are still connected to something greater than yourself. Let them be the ink that writes your next chapter, one of strength, of faith, of surrender, and of renewal. Because every time you rise after falling, every time you wipe away your tears and choose to continue, you are walking toward mercy. And that journey, that quiet, unseen perseverance is where true triumph lies. You are not tired, you are transforming. You are not broken, you are being rebuilt by the very mercy that once made you weep.